I'm going to tell you today, under the definition of the intelligence community's the definition of election interference, President Trump, for the first time, proved that China interfered in the 2020 election.
Oh, the final act seems to be here. The roller coaster ride we've been a part of for so long. It seems to be now on the boarding by the leftists on their ride for this. They are fuming and turning on each other as the word is getting out that all of the forces are now legally set up to go on the attack. Several big names are now being arrested, and we will start seeing this unravel even more as the comms continue to share all this information. Oh boy. Here we go. We're at 513,000 followers on Rumble. Thank you for that. We're number 2 on the leaderboard again with our video from yesterday, Walking Through Darkness to See the Light. We appreciate all of your support there. And here's a token for that.
Our new And We Know bracelets connect you with scripture with just the tap of your phone. Simply tap your phone to the bracelet, click the pop-up, and there's a new verse every time. If you're feeling anxious, need to pray, or just want to see what God has for you in the moment, you can tap for a verse and pray over that situation. Now available online. Now
available at amweknow.com, our brand new website. If you're looking at your screen, it is there. Wonderful to behold. And we hope that you guys are checking it out. There's some goodies there for you to see. Something you might be able to sign up for in the future is actually there finally. And we've got all of our partners there and more. And for those that are sending pictures to us, we've got them. We're working on our email situation now before we start placing pictures of Patriots wearing our gear again when we get that fixed. Let's start with this. Representative Brandon Gill, of course, from Texas. At this point, he said, if you don't support mandating voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote, I will just assume that you're in favor of illegal aliens voting and foreign adversaries compromising our elections. Now, interesting he states that because Lisa Murkowski says, I support voter ID and believe that only U.S. citizens should vote in our elections. But, there's the but, the Save America Act goes beyond that and provides no time for proper implementation. It would ultimately disenfranchise some Americans in rural communities. So I oppose it. So now you know. It's exposing even more those rhinos out there who hate our country.
I have revealed tonight my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China and many others. We will be working closely to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch a stolen election again. Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states. If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states, and we are committing to fix it. And we're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest.
How about that? Just a reminder how this is playing out. Rapid Response 47, I put in the description box below, there talks about the facts that President Trump is actually putting out new information, because the fake news claim is President Trump's address contained no new information at all. President Trump released a substantial body of newly declassified intelligence that had never been made public or even shared with the president at the time. This includes assessments confirming that China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and other malign actors have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure, as well as evidence that the Maduro regime in Venezuela successfully developed methods to digitally alter vote totals in undetectable ways. This information has major implications in our own elections. Also, a fake news claim. We already knew foreign adversaries try to interfere in our elections. Really, fact. The point is to expose the extent to which foreign adversaries were attempting to interfere in our election. For example, President Trump exposed how China obtained the personal data of 220 million American voters, names, addresses, phone numbers, and party affiliations during the 2020 election cycle, representing the largest known compromise of U.S. voter information in history. Intelligence agencies knew about this breach in at least 18 states, yet kept it hidden from the president and Congress. Another fake news claim. President Trump was in office in 2020, so he was undermined by his own team. Fact. That is exactly the point. Deep state elements within the government withheld important assessments from President Trump. One analyst admitted to, quote, deliberately massaging the president's daily brief to keep election-related intelligence out, while an FBI official even described running a shadow government to prevent information from reaching the president. And you're looking at that on your screen. If you want to read through that, you can pause and read. Again, go to the description box below and you can catch all these fake news claims and facts. Fake news claim, the voter data China obtained is already public information anyway. Fact. When China obtained similar data on British voters, the Biden administration responded with sanctions and criminal charges. When Iran hackers obtained just 100,000 American voter files, the Biden Department of Justice brought indictments. Yet when China acquired data on 220 million Americans, these same officials stayed silent and covered it up. An indefensible double standard. Listen to this.
That if I was elected president, I'd respond to any attempt to influence our elections, the last election, and because elections are sacred. They're sovereign undertakings, and they're an expression of the will of the American people. And we cannot allow a foreign power to interfere in our democratic process with impunity. And I told them if it turned out that they as I thought, that there was engagement in our elections, that I'd respond. Today, I've approved several steps, including expulsion of several Russian officials as a consequence of their actions. I've also signed an executive order authorizing new measures, including sanctions to address specific harmful actions that Russia has taken against U.S. interests.
Sounds like somebody sped that video up. I don't remember him talking that fast. Anyway, another fake news claim. There's no evidence that they were able to change the outcome of votes. Come on, show me the evidence. Fact. This is a deliberate attempt to change the subject. In his remarks, President Trump did not make a claim about past elections. He exposed dangerous, ongoing vulnerabilities in America's election systems that foreign adversaries have both the intent and capability to exploit, and revealed that senior intelligence officials deliberately hid this intelligence from the president and the American people. Fake news claim. The number of non-citizens on voter rolls is insignificant. Fact. A Department of Homeland Security review, if you could look to your right, identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens registered to vote in federal elections across just 4 states that cooperated with the department's request. Remember, 4 states cooperated. The rest, there's a lot of others that didn't. Because many Democrat-led states refused to provide their voter files, the actual number is significantly higher. Fake news claim. There's no evidence of fraud or irregularities in our elections. Fact. The declassified documents detail how clear evidence of fraud was deliberately buried. In one case, an investigation discovered Democrat-aligned canvassers in Michigan forged voter registrations, submitted applications for non-existent people, and received gift cards based on the volume of fraudulent registrations they produced in the weeks leading up to the 2020 election. Despite the evidence, the Biden Justice Department slow-walked the investigation for years. Fake news claim. Mail-in voting is safe and secure. Fact. Multiple independent analysis have warned for years about the heightened risks of mail-in ballots. The Bipartisan Commission on Federal Election Reform concluded that absentee ballots are the largest source of potential voter fraud. The MIT Election Data Plus Science Lab has noted that fraud appears more frequent with mail voting than in-person voting. A Heartland Institute Rasmussen poll found that 21% of mail-in voters admitted to at least one form of fraud in the 2020 election. The Heritage Foundation has documented widespread vulnerabilities to theft, forgery, and coercion. Now listen to the left.
We are talking with them about the fact that it is probably best that you do not have your election system connected to the internet.
This was Kamala back in the day. Again, a sped up in video.
Because that will create greater vulnerabilities. And then look at where we are now in this year of our Lord 2018. We're talking about paper ballots, but that actually might be one of the smartest systems. Going back to, a day when we could have something tangible that we can hold on to, because Russia cannot hack a piece of paper like they can a computer system connected to the internet.
Of course, they were always blaming Russia. It's interesting because we played that video of the Democrats talking about, these machines can be hacked into, and they were talking about paper ballots back in the day. And, it's interesting because they were talking about it back when they were the ones that were actually playing the game. So they tell you what can happen to the elections as if they're the ones that are safeguarding the elections for us when they're the ones that are the criminals. Isn't that something? Wait till we uncover some of those that have been caught in the United States. John Solomon, what he found out, and a nice video put out by Promethean Action, again, sharing how this has all been playing out and the dangers involved. Well, folks, if you're struggling to fall asleep at night or you're waking up with that constant ache, we had a great interview with Nathan Madden from Emerald Med Pure CBD. Talked about their wonderful oil, nature's clean support for deeper rest and everyday comfort. Their full spectrum formula preserves up to 50 plus natural hemp compounds, minor cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids working together for better results than isolated CBD. Made with non-GMO hemp, raw extracts, and blended with coconut MCT for fast absorption. No solvents, synthetic sweeteners, or fake flavors, just pure, powerful relief. At 2,250 milligram strength, each bottle delivers over 3,300 milligrams of total support. The reason so many customers feel the difference and come back again and again. Wake up refreshed, move through your day more comfortably, experience clean, effective support the natural way. Go in that description box below and get your pure relief for sleep and comfort. Emerald Med CBD Comfort today. So, war correspondent gave us this. A Palm Beach elections office volunteer just got arrested for stealing an encrypted access key and computer equipment in the March 24th special election where the Democrat won by 800 votes. This is the district that includes Mar-a-Lago. Investigators worry that the encryption used for training could be reverse engineered and used to tamper with voter registration. The theft was reported on March 27th, a few days after last Tuesday's special election. The theft occurred on March 19th, just days before Election Day. Quote, during the search of John Panici's home, detectives recovered the stolen items along with a substantial amount of electronic and digital storage devices. Panici was transported to the Palm Beach County Jail and booked on charges. Election integrity is vital to our republic. It's happening in Florida. It's happening nationwide. How about that? It's happening.
I'm going to tell you today, under the definition of the intelligence community's the definition of election interference, President Trump, for the first time, proved that China interfered in the 2020 election. Now, it wasn't in the 2020 assessments. That was part of his story. But let me read it to you. Page 3 of the October 16, 2020 NIC report does something that the Intelligence Committee seldom does. It gives us the actual definition for election interference. By the way, a lot of the boobs in the media think that influence is a lesser charge and interference is a more serious charge. It's the other way around. Interference is only a part of election influence, which the intelligence community considers more serious. But I'm going to read you the definition because it's the first time in my 40 years in reporting I saw the intelligence community define it this way. Quote, election interference is a subset of election influence targeted at the technical aspects of the election, including voter registration. Just keep that pinned, casting and counting of ballots and reporting of results. The president, for the first time, provided evidence that China was targeting and successfully acquiring illicitly voter registration. The president actually proved election interference by this definition on Thursday. And David's right. In 2020, all those buddies at Langley and NSA, they suppressed this from the report. Had this been in the report, they would have had to admit it. But Donald Trump put the evidence that was missing from those 2020 reports. David Ignatius has no response for it because he had to ignore this. He had to go on Morning Joe and ignore that level of detail to make his snow job case this morning.
How about that? Other things that have been playing out for these elections and more. A Democrat congressman asked a guy about Republicans saying the 2020 election was stolen. And while he asked the question, he probably didn't expect this answer. Listen to this.
Is it not true that Joe Biden won the 2020 election?
Senator, it is true that the 2020 election resulted in the certification of Joe Biden as president. But if you will allow me, since you want to bring up 2020.
Yeah.
3,930 double scan ballots in Fulton County. 39,000 residents of Fulton County who had filed a national change of address form.
Talking about Georgia.
With the U.S. Post Office voted in that election. We know that 84% of those 39,000, either by their own admission or the filing of a new voter registration, were likely ineligible to vote in that election. We know that 315,000 ballot tapes were not certified and maintained a chain of custody as they were supposed to. And we know that there are thousands of missing ballot images from the 2020 election. The data also shows us that it appears that those 3,930 double scan ballots was done intentionally. Now, I have told the story in this well of Gabriel Sterling before, but I'll tell it again. Because Gabriel Sterling purchased his home in 2018 from an individual who then moved out of the state of Georgia. Gabriel Sterling, as you know, Senator, was the chief operating officer for the Secretary of State in Georgia. And Gabriel Sterling was shocked to receive a piece of mail from Fairfight telling him to return his ballot, that Gabriel Sterling received a piece of mail addressed to the individual who had sold him the home, who was living out of state, from Fairfight. And Fairfight was reminding that individual who lived out of state to return their ballot because it was requested by the mail. Sterling then does a little investigation of his own and discovers this individual who had moved out of state voted in the 2020 presidential election. Illegally. That vote was counted. It was rescanned and counted again in a recount, and it was counted in the hand count, Senator. So I would tell you, due to the shenanigans of 2020, I don't believe that we can say we know who the rightful winner was. We do, of course, know that Joe Biden was certified, but I do not believe that we know, due to the small margin of error, who the actual winner was.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, Promethean action. Dug a little deeper on this, showing what's been happening in the past with all these things that play out in politics and more. Bobby D put this together for us. He said it's too good not to post. I didn't know any of this, and it's a perfect example of why they don't teach this in schools. Left-wing violence has been going on forever. A left-wing mob.
Scott Bessent said first.
And before I proceed, I'm going to go off script for a minute, which is always dangerous, but I'm going to remind everyone in this room and all the media that I was the subject of an assassination attempt February 2024 by a addled left-wing activist 2 hours after being sworn into my job. So any of you who want to report that this is a fiction and does not exist, be there for the sentencing this August.
This is the other half of the story. How does an imperial elite take over nations? Well, they can rig elections, but they can also do it by removing the people who will challenge their policies. People like Scott Bessent, people like Donald Trump. Keep that in mind as you listen to Secretary Rubio, who catalogs some of the previous victims of political left-wing terror.
You remember the machine gun massacres of Italy's Red Brigades, which held a 5-time prime minister captive for 55 days before subjecting him to a revolutionary so-called people's trial and executing him in 1978. You remember the Red Army faction's nearly 3-decade campaign of bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations in Germany, murdering dozens and injuring hundreds more.
Rubio didn't name the names, but I will. That Italian prime minister was Aldo Moro, the most powerful politician in Italy at the time, killed at the exact moment he was building a stable, self-governing Italy, when the whole imperial game depended on keeping Italy weak and divided. But it's the German assassinations that Rubio mentioned where you see the real pattern. In November of 1989, shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall, a close ally of the German chancellor was assassinated. Alfred Herrhausen, the chairman of Deutsche Bank, was killed by a roadside bomb so sophisticated that the case has never been solved to this day. Why him? He was building a plan to rebuild Poland's industry using a national reconstruction bank with directed long-term credit for factories and infrastructure. He was also calling for third world debt relief. None of that was in the globalist plan. And Herrhausen's policies were similar to the American system policies now being revived by this administration. 2 years later, in April of 1991, Detlev Rohrabacher was assassinated by the same left-wing terrorist group. He was a steel man trying to restructure East German factories and save them. After he was killed, the factories were asset stripped by financial parasites, and about 4 million jobs in East Germany disappeared. In both cases, the builder is removed, and the policy that follows comes right out of the imperial business model. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. Moro, Herrhausen, Rohrabacher, all committed to political and economic sovereignty for their nations. Rubio also mentions other left-wing terrorist formations, like Peru's Sendero Luminoso, which killed tens of thousands and explicitly targeted engineers and agronomists and Peru's infrastructure. Secretary Rubio drew the right conclusion.
It has always been driven by a hatred. Above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good. It is perpetrated by those who cannot build, who cannot create, who cannot achieve great things.
He just didn't name the names of the greater men. I did. So step back and look at the two podiums together, the way your social media feeds never will. The empire has only ever had two levers to overturn the verdict of a free people: corrupt elections or kill the leaders who threaten their system.
Yeah. Corrupt elections. You know, the Senate refusing to pass the Save America Act really makes you wonder how many members of Congress are installed and not elected. It's a bipartisan operation, said C3. Brian Cates chimed in and said the Trump administration and certain members of Congress, like Anna Paulina Luna, are not being very subtle at all, that they are about to start showing everyone how many members of Congress have foreign interns on their staff. If you suspected for a long time now that members of the U.S. Congress serve other interests rather than those of the American citizens they claim to represent, you were in fact correct about that. Congress is a mafia that sells itself to the highest bidders, foreign or domestic. Kat Comac says, You read that right. What is that? Representative Anna Paulina Luna said this. Some seriously disturbing declassified files will be coming out in the coming weeks about a former member of Congress placing interns in other offices that happen to be agents of foreign governments. There it is. She put it out on social media for all to see. Representative Kat Comack has legislation that would require background checks. So she said, you read that right. Kat Comack said there are no background checks for congressional staff. Resolution 500 would require background checks and full disclosure of dual citizenship and employment of foreign nations for staff. No surprise to anyone that we are being fought every step of the way. You can help us make sure all Capitol Hill staff get background checks by calling your representative. Laura Logan said, this should not be a difficult call to make. No one should be working on the Hill without a background check. Too much is at stake, and without it, you just make it too easy for those who wish to spy or do harm to this country to gain significant access. Spencer Pratt showed us this. Hassan Piker, dressed as Mao Zedong, brainwashing your kids at college. They're communists. This is always communism. Remember, Mao killed more people than Hitler. If Hassan Piker had dressed like a Nazi, we'd have an appropriate outrage. But because commies have infiltrated all our institutions and lied about how evil they are, we don't get the National Socialists were no worse than all other socialists playing out. And it's making the Democrats nervous as the leftists are going full communism and socialism and Islam and more. And you won't believe this as these Dems are starting to kind of freak out.
I am tired of a set of people on the very far left in the Democratic Party. Ideas
That's Van Jones.
that are literally insane, nutty, moronic, dangerous, bigoted, are not progressive. They're regressive, and they should not be in our party.
I'm not living in communist America. I mean, I know the talking point is that, well, it's not communism, it's socialism. Okay, I've read the quotes from the DSA platform, from their own mouths. Don't tell me I'm not seeing what I am seeing. They say things like, takeover of key industries, government. That's communism.
And this comes amid reports of tension between Bernie Sanders and Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader personally calling the socialist senator, telling him to stop meddling in Democratic primaries. But Sanders wasn't taking his orders. Over the weekend, Bernie teamed up with far-left Michigan Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed for a campaign rally that was a doozy. Watch here.
Brothers and sisters, let me tell you, change is coming. Progressives have been defeating establishment candidates all across America. Now, brothers and sisters, the entire country is watching this election. So there's an enormous responsibility on your shoulders.
Harold, you have made a point for many years of trying to separate the Democratic Socialists from the Democratic Party. Will Hakeem Jeffries be successful here?
I hope he is. First of all, it's good to be with everybody.
Good to be with you.
It was good to be with both of you yesterday at the soccer game.
I didn't get invited.
I barely got invited, but it was fun.
Thanks for carrying my
stuff. So a couple of things. No borders, no prisons, no police, supporting Hamas. We've been saying this on the show. I've said it for a while. I'm Van Jones, who I think is one of the more thoughtful voices and has been a leader in the party, serving, working in the White House. I don't quite understand some of the appeal to what some of these guys are talking about. I understand the frustration, the economic frustration. I understand frustration with some of our policies in the Middle East over the years, or for that matter, over the decades. But to say that supporting an organization that exacts and imposes violence on people because of their faith, to say that we don't want to have borders for our country and allow any and everyone to come in, even the worst of the worst, to say that you want no law enforcement and no place to put those who commit crimes, I don't know how that aligns or has ever aligned with the Democratic Party.
Remember, you guys on the Q board, they said by the time we're done, Democrats will pretty much no longer exist. They're imploding on themselves. And some think that this is a white hat operation, that maybe the white hats are installing these crazies to drive the Democrats crazy because they don't know why they don't have a say so. Remember, they're always installing instead of asking the will of the people what they want. They're always installing the people they want. Remember Bernie and AOC pushing hard for ultra-progressive Abdul El Sayed. Boy, oh boy.
The U.S. Senate candidate, Abdul El Sayed. He is very, very progressive, highly progressive. He's a Democrat. He wants Medicare for all, wants to get money out of politics, he thinks that the billionaires have corrupted the political system. He wants a 7% wealth tax.
So what you're seeing now is there's a big push on mainstream Democrats to stop him from winning. They don't think he could beat Mike Rogers. They
talking about Michigan.
Don't think Michigan is going socialist. They think there's a blue collar aspect, working class aspect they're very proud of in Michigan as well, and they're not willing to go that direction. Democrats, realizing they're in trouble, see momentum that he has with younger people, overeducated younger people, and they were scrambling to stop him flooding his opponent with money. And then Bernie Sanders and AOC's try to push back. So there is a subtle civil war going on big time. It's happening first and foremost in Michigan.
There's a civil war going on, says Fox News, out of all the places to bring that up. Oh, man. Oh, and speaking of New York and Mamdani, you guys know that Mamdani says we're going to arrest Bibi Netanyahu if he steps into the United States of America, something like that. Well, President Trump chimed in. You're going to be interested in what Trump had to say. And Mamdani, the Italians, and the Logan Act. Very interesting set of things going on in that area. Stick around. Have you been dealing with nagging pain, restless nights, constant stress, or just feeling drained? What if the solution was something as simple as wearing a watch? Introducing the new and improved WaveWatch 2.2, the world's first sound frequency therapy watch. This isn't just a timepiece, it's 166 powerful frequency sets, over 1,250 targeted frequencies, designed to help your body restore balance naturally. Wear it on your wrist, pick a set for pain relief, deeper sleep, detox, energy boost, stress melt away, or even nerve support, and let gentle, safe sound waves do the work. No apps, no Bluetooth, just pure natural harmony. I use the watch for my back pain and also to regulate my sleep. My friend used it who had terrible knee pain affecting his bowling. Now he bowls pain-free. Another shared in less than a week improvements in liver, hip pain, nerve pain, and emotional balance. It's a blessing. Thousands are experiencing fast-acting wellness without chemicals or side effects. Right now, WaveWatch is giving And We Know fans a special deal. You get 15% off with code AWK. That's code AWK. That's a big savings on the WaveWatch 2.2. Don't wait. Supplies are limited and pre-orders are moving fast. Visit wavewatch.com/pages/AWK today. Use code AWK and take the first step toward feeling better naturally, because when we know better, we do better. Order now. So supposedly, Mamdani is going to arrest Bibi Netanyahu if he came in to the United States, something like that. Anyway, President Trump chimed in on against Mamdani. But before we, let's go ahead and read that. Benjamin Netanyahu will not be arrested, said President Trump, in any way, shape, or form while in the United States of America. Did he say will not be arrested at all? No, he said while in the United States of America. Does that mean he could be arrested anywhere else? All right, President Trump continues. He is fighting against the Islamic Republic of Iran, which recently killed 52,000 innocent protesters, has spent the last 47 years killing American soldiers and others. The only ones that should be arrested are the people that led Iran into this unprecedented spiral of death and destruction. I wonder who that was. Oh, first you got to get Obama and all the other folks that were part of him. Something that should have been dealt with years ago by previous presidents. OG Anon said crazy theory time. Remember that meeting between Trump and Mamdani? You guys remember that? Remember my theory about him being a white hat stealth bomber? Maybe Mamdani's in there to cause problems. Would it be something if he actually does get the NYPD to arrest Netanyahu and before Trump can intervene, he's spirited off to the International Criminal Court? Kind of like we saved Israel for last, or like the final act. Yeah, there it is, that post that he put out there back then in November 2025. Mamdani is a stealth bomber, secretly a white hat. What do you guys think? Do you think he's a white hat? Observing consciousness. The key is what Trump did not say. He did not declare Netanyahu innocent. He did not erase the allegations. And he did not say accountability will never come. Trump said Netanyahu will not be arrested while in the United States. That is a jurisdictional line, a rejection of Mamdani turning New York City into a stage for foreign lawfare and personal political theater. Trump is separating who controls the reckoning from whether or reckoning exists. Netanyahu may still be held to account for any crimes ultimately established, but through other channels, at other point in the sequence, under authority Trump recognizes as legitimate. This was not absolution. It was Trump taking the arrest weapon out of Mamdani's hands. Speaking of Mamdani, listen to this.
What did I tell you? You mess with the bull, you get the horns. Have you seen what's been going on with Mamdani lately? They pulled the Logan Act on him. You know what that is? That's where they have to investigate him and see if he's a communist, see if he's a terrorist. And if he is, he's got to go. This has nothing to do with Holko anymore. It's way above her head. I don't think this has been pulled since JFK. That's where we are, JFK. It's unbelievable. Now, I don't know what you believe or don't believe. If you think the 5 families exist, well, let me tell you, they do. And I'm quite certain they saw what was going on in New York City, and they had a little meeting, and then they went and met with some people and had some talks. And things are getting done in the background. You know, Italians are kind of quiet when they're not talking. They move around all stealth-like until, boom, they get you. And that's what's going to happen right now. We're just taking our time. You know, Mamdani wants to play chess. We can play chess. We know how to do that. So I'm going to sit back and watch what happens over the next couple of years and months. But while I'm doing that, let me tell you, if you keep burning down our Catholic churches, it's going to get... Just saying. All right, here we go. Grab your popcorn. The Italians are here, and we're here to stay.
The Italians are here. Kind of wanted to play some Godfather music there while she was talking, but didn't have it ready to go. All right, U.S. Department of Energy said it doesn't have to be this way. High energy prices in New York, since we're about, Mamdani. High energy prices in New York are a choice. They banned fracking, blocked pipelines, shut down the power plants. Well, I tell you what, Ripcord saw this and said it doesn't have to be this way. See, U.S. Department of Energy. Wonder if we see anything like that. But it was this way. People had to see it in order to give them the will to change. It had to be this way. Remember? Q Post 4461. Only when evil is forced into the light can we defeat it. Only when they can no longer operate in the shadows can people see the truth for themselves. Only when the people see the truth for themselves will people understand the true nature of their deception. Seeing is believing. Sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them. Only then will people find the will to change. It had to be this way. This is not another 4-year election. God wins. Q. Now let's continue with this. The White House posted nobody does it quite like the President of the United States in America. They posted this 29-second video, and there's President Trump walking out to present the World Cup final trophy to the winners, and he's got the final right behind him. It was posted at 9:09 p.m. Another final, the final com. Ultra Magadine caught this. Q29, the 29-second video. Some things must remain classified to the very end. The final end. The truth would sound so outrageous, most Americans would riot, revolt, reject, etc. The pedo networks are being dismantled. The child abductions for satanic rituals, Haiti and other third world countries are paused. We pray every single day for God's guidance and direction as we are truly up against pure evil. 9:09 p.m. post, Planned Parenthood Review congressional investigation. We are working to end Planned Parenthood. The end. Evil, not as it appears. Q. Again, it seems President Trump is telling us we are in the final stretch and we are nearing the end. Hold the line, patriots. Hold the line, patriots. Another post out there. White House says, say less. Plain Maxine. There's President Trump. President Trump says new Air Force One will be taken out of service to be maxed out. Interesting. Melissa Ridpill said this, said Max Protect. Huh. Where have we seen that? Oh, we've seen that at drop 3469. Highest level security plus Max Protect. Targets models made to fill out an extensive background report. The spider web connects those most trusted, those most rich, those most powerful, safe, and they're free. Highest level security plus Max Protect. Huh. A lot of interesting things going on there. Well, there was a person out there wearing a uniform. Another person wearing a uniform. Saying things like this.
So I work for NATO here in Italy. Now, the U.S. going to attack NATO? We're in NATO is absolutely everything we stand for, and I don't understand it. Not a fan. Not a fan. It's a little embarrassing. If you're not embarrassed, then. But yeah, NATO is amazing, and it's a wonderful thing, and it's something that we need to stay. Here's the other part of that. There is no country, America specifically, right? America is not self-sustaining.
I won't play the rest. I'm just showing you that Cat Turds caught this and said, guess what? Americans are calling for swift disciplinary action against this leftist Sergeant Meese, publicly trashing President Trump as Cheeto. She said she's embarrassed for America. Court-martials send to Leavenworth is what Cat Turd wants. These folks are getting bolder by the moment. Then you have other folks in other countries that are actually not wearing the uniform of, military veteran, but these guys actually played soccer. For Spain, no less, this guy, Torres. The man who scored the goal that made Spain the world champion, Ferran Torres, is a great patriot. This is the hat he wore to celebrate the victory. And there's claims that he's a devout Christian and very humble and kind person. There he is. And it says, make Spain great again with the red hat. He's not ashamed to wear it on a world stage. Takes a lot of guts to do that, especially in the climate that we live in. But hey, say something to him. This guy just won for Spain. Let's go to other things, talking about those that can't stand our country but live in it. Islamic Imam in Texas.
Our biggest weakness is our percentage in this country. We are very disadvantaged. By the way, this is only in this country because across the Western world, mashallah, tabarakallah, percentages are rising to the point of it's terrifying them. Sweden, 10% Muslim. Oslo, Norway, 10% Muslim. Oslo, of all places. Vienna. The Ottoman Turks tried 200 years, they couldn't do anything. Vienna is 10% Muslim. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. 10% Muslim. England, London, it is estimated 20%. I was in Australia a year and a half ago. Australia. Sydney, there are districts the size of maybe half of Austin that are 60% Muslim.
He encourages increasing their numbers in Texas, spreading throughout America. Another Islamic imam explains how they plan to take over America.
One day you're going to be the president of the United States of America. No one, go in Michael Ali, who can stop you from becoming a president. Dream big, have a vision. Because if Barack Hussein Obama can be a president, Sohaib Jawad cannot be a president? Tell me. He's going to be a president. He's talking about that the Muslims will take over Mecca. They used to laugh at him. What happened? What is Mecca now? Where is Mecca? It's coming. Change is coming to America. And what is Allah telling us? Kuntum khayra ummatin. You are the best of nations. You're better than everybody else. That's what Allah is saying. Let's work towards that. Let's work towards a Muslim mayor. Next election that comes in, nominate people for the school board of education. Next election that comes here, nominate people for the local township. Begin the demographics change. People converted. There's a big, huge conversion going on in this country. Well, where are the converts? They just convert and they're gone in the wilderness. The other thing, children. Muslims have the highest population. Average, they did a Pew Foundation did a research study, Pew Foundation, and they said that Muslim household average is 3.4 child per family.
Have more children. You know, we're having a discussion. I was wondering how this is playing out. Old Obama comes in, installs his Muslim Brotherhood and his friends, and figures out how to get all the Muslims over here, as many as possible. And then, of course, they have the birthright citizenship. So they come over and then they have a bunch of babies and they become U.S. citizens. Then you bring them up in the schools and more, and you teach them hatred of the country and more. And the next thing you know, 20 to 30 years later, it's too late. There are 40 Muslim mayors in the U.S., 240 Muslims in city councils across the U.S., 70 Muslims in state House of Representatives in the U.S., 15 Muslim state senators in the U.S., 4 Muslims in the U.S. House of Representatives. I saw this from Admiral James Lyons. Warned us 10 years ago, 2016, about Barry Obama.
As President Obama has said, he wants to fundamentally transform America. Well, what is it? Well, let me tell you. It's un-American. It's anti-Western, but pro-Islam, pro-Iranian, and pro-Muslim Brotherhood. You have to ask yourself, why would an American president embrace the Muslim Brotherhood, whose creed is to destroy us from within with our own miserable hand and replace our Constitution with draconian Sharia law? You got it right. Now, I'm always holding back. Now, you understand we have a serious national security crisis. When you have a president who is not interested in America leading or America winning, then you know the greatest threat to our national security resides at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We have a president who refuses to identify the enemy. Islam is a totalitarian ideology bent on world domination masquerading as a religion. And I got to tell you, I reject the term radical Islam. That implies...
How about that? You know, even Dr. James Manning came out and he talked about Barack Obama and what he's done.
Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy Obama, if you don't mind, was not an American citizen. It was the biggest fraud that has ever been perpetrated against the United States of America. It was like unto the attack of Pearl Harbor, and I'm using all these military examples. But Obama was not natural born. But the liberal media, the CNNs of the world, the MS of the world, the Wall Street journals, to some degree that New York Times, to be sure, the Washington Post, and the surge of black rage was able to force this man who could not present appropriate credentials to the American people that he was born in America, forced it down our throats because the liberal Democrats wanted him, and the Republicans were just too weak, too unorganized, with the likes of a John McCain to stop him. But it was a fraud like no other fraud America has ever experienced. And
Of course, we knew that. We've seen that. And he also introduced to the country in many ways to shape the mindset of the people and change things and facts that were playing out before our very eyes. One of them was this. Wall Street Apes is going to show us about how you go to New Jersey's inmate mugshots and filter by race white, your mind's going to be blown. Elon Musk actually posted this and said it's been this way for years. He actually responded to Wall Street Apes.
They are hiding the race of so many people, mainly men, who have been arrested. Race, white. And you can go to this website. It's for all the New Jersey mugshots and put in the race white. And you're going to see several non-white men. Imagine if they did this in reverse. Imagine if white men were getting arrested and being put down as black as their race. The left would flip out. And this is quietly happening across the nation. So all those statistics about black and brown men committing a disproportionately high amount of violent crime, it's actually worse. We have to start facing reality because this is a problem.
Okay, so here we are on the State of New Jersey Department of Corrections. This is their website where you can just go and you can search for mugshots of who's in jail. So for the filter, all I did was put in white with dark hair. And the reason why I selected dark hair is because if you just put in white, it says it's too many results. So this is white with dark hair. So let me just show you this here. Look, do these people look white to you? Just take a look here. Let's just scroll down and I open some of these so you can see. Now this is just the first page. So I'm going to go over people that are booked as white that are just on the first page. And keep in mind, look down here. See where it says race, white? Pay attention to that as we go through them. Does this guy look white to you? Let's go to the next one. Does that guy look white to you? I think he's more potentially Mexican. Alvarez Juan is white. Let's go here. We have this guy, I don't know about him. He looks maybe Arab, but he's booked again as white. Right down here, you can see. Let's go to the next one. Another white guy, apparently, clearly not white. Here we go again. Another Acosta. This is a white guy, apparently, to New Jersey. Here we go again. Another probably Muslim, potentially, but again, he's booked as white. And let's look again here. We have another Castillo, clearly Mexican, booked as white.
So you're catching all this, and then how do they get to you in other ways? So they work their system in that manner, and then they, of course, use the theater and television and media and all those others to distract us and ruin different mindsets. If you guys didn't know, there's a movie out called The Odyssey. The Odyssey was supposed to be, based off of Greece and Greek, mythology and so much more. And if you go on the internet, and I actually did this myself, I said, I wonder how it's doing because I wanted to see the response of the people because the tomato meter says 95%. It's going to be great. And then I saw a popcorn meter or something, and it's like 97%. There's no way. I was freaking out. I was like, there's no way people are enjoying this movie. There's no way after everything that I've seen on social media about this movie. Old Tory Wright said, I just, tried to write a review and it just ate it. Doesn't even try to verify my ticket or anything. Just deletes your negative review. I didn't say one word about the casting at all because the casting is nothing to do with the truth of the book. So the Odyssey has officially overtaken The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King on Rotten Tomatoes. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey sits at 95% reviews. This is all on the internet, right? Well, Mr. Obvious saw this. He said, The Odyssey is faking ticket sales by buying up theaters' seats fraud to make the movie look like a success. Already $400 million in the hole. Moviegoers are reporting having to take terrible seats because full. But when they show up to the theaters, they're mostly empty. So if you look at some of these comments people are actually putting out there, they said, look, sister works at a theater in Reno and said the same thing. Corporate even told them to be ready for full house nights the first couple weekends due to ticket sales, but it's not adding up for them either. I expected a full house at somebody else from morning till night. Something's not adding up here. Somebody said, I saw it yesterday with my son. The website showed pretty much the whole theater sold out, so we had to sit near the front. It showed my row half full, but we were the only ones there. I figured maybe it was the family that couldn't make it and got a refund, but I got up to go to the restroom halfway through the movie, and the theater was barely half full. Things have noticed. A lot of tickets bought up and still being bought online. Very few people are actually showing up at the theater. So they're trying to make people believe that this is a great movie and people are going to watch it and they're in love with it and more. And those that just pay attention to, like I did, I looked at the popcorn meter or whatever, and I was like, wow, I can't believe that people are actually watching this thing and they agree with the movie. Well, then look at this.
Here's the media on the ridiculous casting choices in The Odyssey. Why
Brittany Hughes.
Elon Musk and his troll army's attacks aren't just silly, but wildly inaccurate. And The Odyssey star Lupita Nyong'o responds to racist casting backlash. This is a mythological story. And here's the media on Disney's Moana. Moana creatives on working closely to honor Polynesian culture and traditions and why representation matters in the live-action film. So a 3,000-year-old Greek epic gets a rewrite with a little transvestite woman and a feminist black lady who admitted she never even read the books. But you're not going to see any redheaded freckled women running around in the remake of a cartoon about a little Polynesian girl because, you know, we wouldn't want to get their culture wrong. And this is why people are so fed up. Because it's not just about a movie. It's a blatant anti-white agenda that is designed to bully people into compliance. This idea that you are allowed to be proud of your ancestry and your culture if you're not white. But if you are white, you're supposed to hate everything about yourself, your ancestry, and where you come from because it's just too horrible to look at. I mean, never mind that Africans were butchering each other and enslaving each other for thousands of years before anybody else showed up. Never mind that Native Americans were murdering each other on the regular, or that South American indigenous tribes were among the most barbaric in human history. Actual Polynesians? Raiders who were beating each other with clubs, and it was actually pretty normal. But never mind all of that. We're just supposed to pretend that anybody with melanin was living in harmony with one another until all of the evil white folks showed up and messed everything up. You know why? Because that revisionist history promotes a victimhood narrative that can be weaponized. It is the same ideology that convinces liberal white women to risk life and limb in defense of illegal aliens, criminals, and terrorists, because they have been brainwashed into believing that their skin color gives them a privilege that they don't deserve. And liberals know that if they can convince white people that they owe something and non-white people that they are owed something, then everyone will support a government system that comes in and takes control in order to facilitate that exchange. It is not just a movie. It is a racist lie with a very deep agenda, and we see it, and we're over it.
We see it, we're over it, and many people have. They're starting to notice what is going on. Ticket sales are fake. You can't put in any negative reviews. You guys go try it yourself. I've seen people on video, they're trying to do it, and they're like, I can't put a negative review in this movie. On the internet, they've covered all the bases, folks. That's the evil that we're dealing with. The FBI raided the Portland home of an illegal alien who was shining lasers at military helicopters. Yeah. Turns out he also lived with 3 other illegals, and all of them are now in ICE custody being processed for deportation. So that deportation, in case you guys didn't know, literal busloads of illegals flown out of Minneapolis, chartered Boeing 737, finally sent back to where they came from, despite the rioting and obstruction done by the left. And they're not slowing down. We've seen videos like this before. And in Sweden, it's illegal for women to carry pepper spray for self-defense. Sweden people can now be convicted in court for defamation if they warn someone if a man who is a convicted sex offender. You say anything? Well, defamation. Meanwhile, a man who raped a 14-year-old girl was set free by the court. The court verdict said the girl could have just walked away. That's the state of Sweden. Spain.
Vox, no el PP y Vox. Vox lleva al Pleno del Congreso una...
The burqa and the hijab have no place in Spain, says this Spanish leader, Pepa Milan. No place in Spain and therefore must be banned, as Vox defends. Foreigners who repeatedly impose these veils on women will be expelled from Spain. Is that actually happening? Anybody from Spain out there can tell us? You know, even the Saudis and UAE leaders warned.
Citizen or French citizen or British citizen, deport them. That's what we would do. If they're your citizen, then stop them from preaching. We have a policy in Saudi Arabia of zero tolerance for extremists. If somebody is an imam in a mosque and is preaching hate and violence, they get reprimanded, reprogrammed, and then dismissed if it doesn't work. And
So they actually allow the mosque, but they don't tolerate Islamic propaganda in their own countries. The West keeps rolling out the red carpet for Islamist expansion, ignoring the threat. And so that has been playing out. And of course, wanted to show you Germany. The AfD, of course, back in 2025, we've got Alice Weidel. She's been out there exposing the state of modern Germany, mass migration, exploding crime, high taxes, silenced dissent. The regime wants to ban the strongest opposition party, the AfD. So we have to keep them in our prayers. That continues to move forward every single day. We continue to learn more how this is playing out before our very eyes. I wanted to show you this also. President Trump imposed a 50% tariff on range of Canadian goods, claiming unfair treatment over U.S. autos, alcohol, and cheese. So Observing Conscience said, go with me on this for a minute. July 16th, China formalized a 29-nation AI bloc. That same day, Trump's trade chief said Mexico was negotiating pragmatically while Canada offered no meaningful concessions. Well, then came the World Cup final. First Lady of the United States was publicly seen with the leaders of both Canada and Mexico, all three North American nations placed inside the same frame, while trade, tariffs, and continental alignment were already moving beneath the surface. Mexico is tightening against Chinese goods and negotiating deeper into the North American production system. Canada is opening wider channels to Chinese EVs, chips, steel, solar technology. Trump hit Canada with 50% tariffs. Even the USMCA shield while protecting the energy, minerals, and strategic resources America still needs. That sequence seems signal to me. China forms the AI bloc. Mexico moves forward toward the American perimeter. Canada keeps the Chinese gateway open, and Trump separates the paths. The tariff order never says this about AI, yet AI dominance rests on chips, energy, batteries, metals, electronics, manufacturing, data infrastructure, and the supply chains connecting all of it. The World Cup optics showed the choice. The tariffs showed the consequence. Trump is hardening North America into a sovereign economic and technology fortress, pulling Mexico inside the firewall, striking the Canadian gateway, and warning every nation aligning with China's AI architecture that access to the American market now comes with a price. All eyes on tariffs and all eyes on gold and silver. Amazing interview, guys, we put out Saturday. Don't want you to miss it. You have to check this out. Phenomenal information, again, showing what's been playing out before our very eyes as we found out that U.S. dollar used to be backed by silver, sometimes gold. Dr. Elliott had a lot to say about it. amweknow.com/gold. In the description box below, reach out to them, folks. They'll pray with you. They'll help you out. And they'll talk to you because August is coming. We're going to see, we believe, some big things playing out. Department of War CTO put this out. We untie the hands of our warfighters to intimidate, demoralize, hunt, and kill the enemies of our country. No mercy. There's a picture of that patriot, never back down. Interesting choice of words from the Department of War. Again, matching the cue board. 2722. No mercy. No bargaining. A traitor's justice. PAIN. Pain.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, how grateful we are to you for what you've done for our nation, what you're doing now through amazing leaders that have been placed at the right time, taking down the enemy one day at a time through legal means, through amazing, marvelous setups to protect us for years and years to come. We've got so much on our mind, so many things that we feel responsible for, and we ask that you help us in our own way, in our own world, on how to deal with this, how to share the information, and how to get involved. You have a perfect plan. We ask that your will on earth be done as it is in heaven. We thank you for the daily provisions you give us, and we ask for protection from the enemy who wants to destroy all of this, destroy us and our families. And we just need your protection. Without you, we can do nothing. We bring this before you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen. Thank you so much, folks, for your support, for your prayers, and more. We are just moving forward daily with this information. Thanks to all the folks out there who continually putting out information in this fight, this information warfare. For now, this is LT Simplify with Them We Know, signing out.
Under the definition of the intelligence community's the definition of election interference, President Trump, for the first time, proved that China interfered in the 2020 election.